All right, this video is for you. If you've ever said, I just can't seem to get out of my own way. I can't seem to get started. I don't know where to start. I just feel so overwhelmed. There's just so many things to do. There's so many choices and I just shut down. Or just feel like I keep spinning my wheels going over the same things over and over again. So I just got off a call with a client and she for the last month has been overcoming burnout because she's been trying to be perfect, trying to get in all the workouts and, deal with her aging parents and help her kids move into college and, be a great employee. And she's just like, running around like a hamster on a treadmill. So I just asked her, I'm like, okay, let's just imagine our life. Write down all the things that you want to accomplish, right? Because there is a saying out there that you can have it all, but you just can't have it all right now. And that's me not trying to discourage you because I tried to have it all and I burnt myself into the ground and, I'm protected in the names of the innocent. But as I'm hearing, Shauna really go on and on and on, I'm just like, so many women here can relate to her story that, we have so many responsibilities. We have so many priorities, so many things we want to accomplish, and we're trying to do, 500 things at the same time while, riding a bike, chewing gum, and trying to fly a plane. And so I asked her, I said, the best way to get over this is to sit down and say, let's start to write down, what are you trying to accomplish? And what does success look like? And many of us don't clearly define that. We just say, I want to lose the weight. I want to work out. I want to get healthy. And there are these vague terms that I don't put any definitions behind. And I'm big on definitions because definitions help you know what exactly is happening. It's kind of like if you hired someone to do work at your house. And you said, okay, contractor, I want you to paint my house. Okay. Well, what specifically do you want him to paint? Do you want the outside, inside, a bedroom, bathroom, what color, right? You have to be specific because if not, you can come home and, they might not do what you want them to do. And so when we do it to ourselves, we're like, oh, I want to lose weight. Okay, well, how much do you want to lose weight? Like, when do you want to lose it by? And we don't put any definitions or parameters around this. And so as, she's, explaining how frustrated she is, like that she's not able to do all the things she wants to do, I told her, let's start by writing down all the things that you want to do. And then once she does that, the next step is the analogy that works best, and a good friend of mine said it to me when I was trying to do 5 million things. She said, Kim, in life you only have 4 burners, right? We all know what a stove looks like. And for most part, unless you have one of those fancy dancy stoves, for most part, 4 burners on your stove. And only one thing can be on high. Right? Have you ever been cooking and you have 4 things on a stove? And, if everything was on high, you'd be worried about what's going to boil over, what's going to burn, where some things you have to turn down so you can focus in on the thing that's probably your highest priority. And so I ask you, to think about that, right? As you write down that list, what is going to be on high? What's going to be on medium high? What's going to be on medium? And what's going to be on low? So that way it helps us to just kind of let everything else fade into the background so that we're not constantly having 50 things on high. And once we define those 4 things, we're like, okay, what does the end look like? All right. Where does this lead me? Where am I heading with this thing that's on high? All right. How do I know when I can adjust it down to low? How do I know that I can, move the burners around? And so I get that by getting clear about what it is that I want to do. And I also ask myself, as I'm trying to make these decisions, I ask myself, why do I want this? Is it truly what I want? Or is it what I think I want? Because I don't know. I know so many people, they get things and all of a sudden they're like, is this it? Is this what I want? Or they play the when I lose the 10 pounds, when I, put on more muscle, when, and that when seems to get pushed further down the road. Or I call it scope creep. So scope creep is you'll say to me, hey, Kim, I want to lose 10 pounds. Great, let's do it. And then when we get to like 5 pounds, you start to say, well, I really meant 15. And you're like, okay. And so then you find a way to extend the end date because fear, right? What would happen if I got what I wanted? Would my life change? And we have these thoughts that my life is just going to be this cataclysmic change. We see movies where it's mostly the women. So someone who's a writer needs to write a movie where it's the guy that gets the transformation, but the woman is the ugly duckling and they lose X number of pounds and all of a sudden, all the guys want her, right? That's what we think is going to happen. But honestly, like, you lose the weight and it has to be, it should be an internal, like, will you feel more confident? Will you feel more comfortable? Will you take more pictures if you were comfortable and confident in your body? And the first place is that I got to get clear. What is it that I want? The second thing, define those burners. What is your high priority right now? And third is that we have to look at what season are we in. I've talked about this before, is that, we have every day can't be summer. Every day, like, everything can't be blooming and blossoming and busy. And if we are in that season, we know that, like, now's the time to, like, chill and relax, where, might have to start planting some seeds for later down the line. So as, I'm closing out this call with Shauna, I was like, the 3 things that I want her to take away, and the 3 things I want you to take away is define what are the things you're trying to accomplish. Define where are they on the burner. Ask yourself, why do I want this? Connect to it. And then ask yourself, what season am I in? Right? What is the season I'm in? Am I in a season that I can really push and drive? Or am I in a season that really I need to have a little bit more rest and recovery? Am I a season that I'm gonna, start to plant some seeds that will come to fruition later down the line? And, like I said, we don't have to have it all figured out right now. And if you don't have it figured out all right now, that's okay. The first thing is just start to sit down and ask yourself, what the hell do I want? Give yourself permission to dream. Give yourself permission to say, it's okay for me not to have everything right now. It's okay for me to break down my needs into smaller steps. Because when we break down our needs into smaller steps, guess what? We're able to say, I can take one action. And when I can take one action, I stop being overwhelmed. I stop being like, I don't even know where to start. It's that one simple action that, starts that spark, starts that, like, I can do this. And I'm going to leave you with this one thought. And this is the thought that really pushed Shauna over the edge. So Jerry Seinfeld, when he first started out, he told himself that, I need to make a joke in order to be a comedian, comedians should have a whole bunch of jokes. I can't think of the word, but whole bunch of jokes. So he challenged himself to sit down and write a joke every single day. And he had a big old school calendar, and every day he would write an X for every time he wrote a joke. And on the days that he didn't write a joke, there would be a hole. And he told himself, don't break the chain. That was his mantra, don't break the chain. So small things add up, right? It's these don't break the chain. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm feeling like I'm never going to achieve my goals, break it down to really small things. And I'm going to focus on the thing that's on high and start to break it down into their smaller steps and ask myself, what's this one thing I could do every day that's going to chip away at that high goal? And so that I start to feel momentum. And when I start to feel momentum, ooh la la, that is going to keep me going. It's when I try to do 5 million things and I don't see any progress throughout any of the 500 things, I get discouraged and I don't want to keep going. And I don't want that for you. And so if you're someone who's like, I'm sick of pressing the reboot button, I'm sick of always starting over again, I'm sick of just never getting further, now's the time to make the change, because you can sit here and continue to beat your head against the wall, continue to bite off more than you can chew at any given time, or you can choose to reboot and refocus. And if you're ready to reboot and refocus, I got something that's coming out that's going to be just for you. That all you got to do is hop on my wait list and get in there. It is going to be a success series that is really going to help you to stop feeling the overwhelm that you always feel, help you to put together a complete process so that you will always get what you want and you will stop once and for all pressing that reboot button. So click below and you will see that link. Enjoy your day.